Welcome to the All Together Show with Eric Satz. On this show, you'll hear Eric's unfiltered interviews with interesting and untraditional entrepreneurs who ignored boundaries, followed their instincts and own paths, and are now empowering others to do the same. Subscribe to the show and learn more by visiting alltogether.show. And now your host, Eric Satz.
Joining me on this week's show is Howard Lindzon. He's had success as an entrepreneur, operator, and venture capitalist. Just as important, with Howard, what you see is what you get. And as if he didn't have enough to do, during the pandemic, he started an unbelievable podcast called Panic with Friends, which is just as straightforward as he is. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it with Howard. Here we go.
This episode of the All Together Show is brought to you by Alto IRA. Alto is a digital, self-directed IRA company modernizing IRA investing. They make it easy and cost-effective for individual investors to access their retirement savings and invest in alternative assets. To learn more, visit altoira.com.
Thank you for joining us. I'm thrilled to have you on.
I'm thrilled to be me.
Excellent.
I honestly never thought I would say that in high school, but I'm thrilled to be me.
I think there are a lot of people in high school wondering, if they're ever going to make that statement. So true.
People always say, what, if you knew then what you knew now, I'd say chill the fuck out.
Yeah, it is a hard part of life.
Buy Apple and don't be skeptical of Ritalin. Those are the three things I tell myself.
There you go.
I hate myself on video. Okay.
We'll see. I mean, you're wearing a hat. I'm wearing a hat.
Let me see your hair. Let me see your hairline.
Oh, what hair? No.
There you go.
I wear the hat to help the headphones sit better. So
you should get that hat. You should consider washing that hat.
I've washed it many times.
Then you should consider yourself stop being so cheap and get a new fucking hat.
No, but if you have a hat that works, is there ever a reason to use another hat?
Honestly, here's the dilemma. Because I actually now have enough money to buy a lot of hats and actually not stress about having a lot of hats. And so when I fall in love with a hat, I just fucking wear the thing. It's, I get these white sweat stains, and it always bums you out because you have a favorite hat.
Yep.
And it just looks disgusting to wear a sweaty hat.
Just ask my wife.
It doesn't seem to bother you. It doesn't seem to bother you.
It doesn't at all.
And if it doesn't bother you, God bless. It bothers the shit out of me. It's like someone who has it's not bothering me that you have it. I think it tells me a lot of, it bothers me to know that someone's looking at my sweaty hat. Meaning, if someone has a weird ear hair or a random nose hair and they're in a meeting with me, I don't think I can't concentrate. I am it's a Larry David moment. It's all I can want to do. It's a total
Larry David moment.
All I want to do is tweeze it for him. Why do people laugh at me?
How come you didn't go say hi? You're on the golf course. You took pictures, but you didn't go. He would love to talk to you.
He literally would have swung a club at me. I mean, he had the full face mask COVID thing. He probably had and it's not my course. I don't want to upset the member. I could probably get these people kicked out.
But your hat was probably a nice hat. It wouldn't have been sweaty. There would
have been no COVID on your hat. I just traded out. So now what I do, because it's an important podcast, just getting people information I never get to share, is if I buy a new hat, I'm wearing the hat I wanted, that I loved and now is dirty, to the hat purchase. So I leave the hat behind.
That's interesting. Do you know what happens when I get a new hat? The old hat flew off on a boat somewhere. That's typically what happens. I swear to God, it flies out my car. And your wife lets you
sleep in the bedroom again.
It flies out my car, flies off the boat, and then I'm like, fuck, I got to get a new hat. It's it's the worst. Okay.
That was a nice little drop of, I'm wealthy enough to have a boat. It was well done.
No. I have friends with boats and ski houses, by the way. Best way to do it.
Nice.
Friends with boats and ski houses.
Nice.
Low maintenance, very low maintenance.
Nice.
So, for some reason, if someone doesn't know Howard, Thunderbird School of Global Management, sunny Arizona, But by the way, sun, I think, plays a big factor in where you spend a lot of time,
Yeah.
does it not? Arizona and San Diego?
Not because I'm a sun god, even though I'm tanned. I actually wear a lot of lotion. I wear a hat all the time, but I'm in the sun all the time, so I'm sure I'm killing myself. But something about the straight on vitamin D and on my brain and on my outlook on life. I'm just wired to visit the Northeast randomly. I'm not wired to live there. Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
So
and so I followed my own just brain. And I should have put more money where my mouth is in terms of real, I've invested fully in the Southwest, but it's so obvious that the world is congregating around Arizona and Colorado, New Mexico, and California.
So, but before we leave the Northeast, because a lot of what you do has the Northeast built into it, right? So you do Wall Strip, which is what was this daily business satire video, video podcasting. Before there was such a thing as video podcasting almost. You sell that to CBS. You do StockTwits, leading social investing and trading platform on Twitter. You've done social leverage, which is the opposite of public equity. It's private equity.
Complete opposite, yeah.
But when you think about who you are, beyond the biography, what comes to mind? Who is Howard?
It's a great question. I think I'm totally, I would say, the whole thing was about sounding stupid and egotistical, right? Because it's the last thing you want to do. But I grew up in fantasy land with a TV. I had a patch when I was a kid. I had a floating eye, so I was just trapped in my own anxiety. And for a floating eye, you used to have a patch, right? That was the medical diagnosis to cure. That was how they cured it. That's how they thought you had to cure it, to wear a patch on the good eye. So it's basically blind.
And if you had a curved leg, you had to put braces on, and you had to walk in wooden braces.
I was Forrest Gump, but with an eyeball. Yeah. I was it was see, Howard, see, instead of run, Forrest, run. That was my life. I was lifting the patch to watch Gilligan's Island. My earliest remember is I thought I was cheating. That's probably why I hate cheating. Is I felt like a cheat because back then your parents were on you if you lifted the patch, right? Your eyes are never gonna correct, right? It was like the anxiety my parents, they didn't know anything. So it's the doctor says, wear the patch, and you're not wearing the patch. You're like, fuck, I'm wearing corduroys, knickers, and a patch. There's not a lot of girls that are gonna, I'm just scarred for life. Which is why I change my hat up every time. I don't want to send a signal that I'm a total loser. So I watch a lot of TV. That was my escape, where a lot of people did. And now it's the
What
internet.
did you learn watching TV?
Well, I had a lot of alone time. My parents just left me alone because I was easy to manage because I loved fucking TV. And I was watching Johnny Carson when I'm 8 going, I want to be Johnny Carson. I'm listening to Woody Allen albums going, that guy's funny. 8 years old. That was my life. And so I would just want to be Johnny Carson, and that was my idol. And then Dave Letterman, and then obviously Gary Shandling, and then Seinfeld and Larry David. My role, Jim Carrey, he did stand up in Toronto. I did stand up. That's the fantasy.
What's harder, stand up or investing in private equity?
Well, everything's hard, but I wouldn't want to do stand up. But I'd love to do it again because I feel confident. The booze wouldn't matter. I think I could win over a crowd at some level. I think I could always put together some laughs. Just because. Are
you funny?
No, it's just because life is funny. So when you're 18, you have to be or 15, like Jim Carrey, you have to be fucking funny. When you're 15 and don't have any life experience, you may be funny to your Jewish parents, but you're not funny at a comedy club. And
exactly.
You have to practice. So I wasn't that type of funny. So I think so now when I get an email from somebody or a tweet saying, hey, they show me their yearly returns, and I don't even know they're following me, and they'll say, thanks, Howard, or thanks, StockTwits, so I'm saying, to get those things are what you do. It's like, I didn't even know who the person is. He's just said thanks, right? And he thanks relative to what I do for a living, which is share ideas and like try and teach people that they can invest, and try and uncomplicate things. So those are like why I do it. Obviously, I don't expect to get those from people, but I started to get them more and more. Obviously, it's a bull market, but hey, someone still has to, even if it's a bull market, someone still had to make the step to invest, right? There's all this, this stigma around investing. It's like, it's a bull market. It's nobody's fault. Like, so doesn't mean you shouldn't invest. And so for those people that do and take advantage of it, it's not against the law.
No.
So I think, like, if I can be remembered for that, like, I'm not going to be Gary Shandling or Larry David or, but if I can be at that level as the investor where people look up to me and just say, he put me on a better path and showed me how to make money and, taught me English per se, and English being the markets, then that would be, it's the ultimate, to be, those people are revered for being at the top of their game.
So I'm going to jump into actually.
Did I answer the question?
I think you did, but I'm going to skip to the end of what I would typically do, which is I collect questions from our team at Alto for the guests, and so our VP of engineering, who's been a StockTwit member since 2012. And recognizes that there are a lot of personalities involved, said that you helped him manage his IRA. And he was eternally grateful for A, creating the community, B, providing that sort of direction and giving him the confidence to do that. So that aligns directly with what you're saying. And then he had a question, which was is all the tweeting yours, or do you ever employ a ghostwriter?
Sadly, it's all mine, and sadly, there's many that should have not been sent that are sent, and that's the only sad thing about Twitter is it was meant to be this place where you could just fart a thought, and now it's become a place where the smartest people are scared to fart. And
it's very political.
It's not, I hate using the term political because I'm anti-people, certain people. I'm anti-Trump. I'm not anti-fucking GOP. I'm anti a lot of people on the GOP, but I'm anti-Schumer and
right.
Pelosi, right? Like, if people would just listen, and you can't express that consistently on Twitter. So, love Twitter. It's just caused me a lot more aggravation the last 4 years than joy, right? Whereas StockTwits continues to compound my joy. Now, I do get a lot of the benefits of Twitter. I really don't get that much hate, but it only takes one crazy person, to wreck your life. And that's why smart people do quit, because it only takes one asshole. And whereas one person who loves me doesn't make up for the one asshole.
Yeah.
So I think that's the dilemma. And that's why that's why Twitter is capped at where they're capped at right now. It's because there's too much hate compared to the joy. And so the ratio is not worth the best people doing it. And so they're death by 1,000 cuts. And like I'm sure they're growing because just people are coming online, but not in a way that's healthy.
If you relate it to just actually human interaction and relationships, in order to have a healthy relationship, I think I read somewhere that you need roughly 10 positive interactions for every negative interaction, or the relationship doesn't work. And
great point.
I think you could probably,
and I get that. That's why I don't use Twitter, even though I like rip on Trump all day. Because like, what are people thinking? Like, literally, I get it. Like, if your answer is Hillary and Biden, I totally get it. Not fucking great people.
We don't have time for this.
No, but you know what I'm saying. So even despite me being opinionated about people, which I hate doing. He's a public person, and fuck him. I'm entitled, right? Like, I get it, and I get why people are mad. I still get 50 to 1, 100 to 1 positive, which is why I still tweet. And so I must be doing something right. For as many times as I put my foot in my mouth, and that's often, I've upset people that I didn't think I could upset. But not my daughter, and that's about. Rachel's in the other room working, and if I upset her, I'd be upset. I've upset her a couple times in her life, and that's when I know I fucked up.
Your son, you can upset him?
I want to upset him. I can't upset him enough. It's the exact opposite. I'm not doing well enough if he's not mad at me.
Yeah, I've got a 21 and 19-year-old as well, boy and girl, so I get it.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite. If he's not mad at me, I'm not working hard enough.
Totally understand. So let's go back to the beginning. Where and when were you born?
Born in Toronto, 1965.
And what did your
I'm
parents...
a Virgo, September.
You're Virgo. And by the way, fuck Google Forms, because I know it didn't work. Like, it didn't come through.
Oh,
so I'm flying blinds, but whatever. Huh. You're Virgo. That's
I saw the questions. I answered the question.
Yeah. No, I believe you. And in fact, so I sent it to a teammate, and it went to her spam. Like,
it went to my spam too. Yeah.
There you go.
Well, Google needs some engineers, obviously.
Yeah, no, they don't have enough. And well, once they left Silicon Valley, they forgot how to code, apparently.
Yeah.
So
they must be in Nashville by this point.
They must have. They're on their way to Nashville, because if you look at residential prices now in Nashville, it sort of feels like Silicon Valley is coming here. But
what's funny is Nashville, I heard, was under-hoteled, and then COVID hit, so maybe they're over-hoteled now. I heard it was the most under-hoteled city in the world.
It was, which is why the average nightly rate in Nashville, I think, for some period of time was the single highest in the country, which is just nuts. And so then we were building, for everybody building here. And then COVID hits. We probably had, 35 hotels come online in the last year, and then COVID hits. And
yeah, I'm saying that's how the world works. It's like, I used to say that the best place to spend the night in Nashville is Atlanta.
Yeah. Now the exact opposite is true.
Thank God for COVID. COVID has a couple, we say that jokingly. We don't mean that.
Yes, absolutely.
See, I have to say that now.
Right. That's crazy that you have
4
to say
years
that.
ago, people would giggle. 4 years ago, you run the laugh track and people go, Howard's great. He says whatever he wants. Now I got to correct all my best stuff.
So what did your parents do?
They drove me bananas. They caused tremendous anxiety. They screwed up as parents.
Just you? Are you an only child? Do you have siblings?
No, middle.
Middle. Okay.
It's on the Google Forms that does not exist.
The Google form that didn't make it back to me.
Yeah,
exactly.
So the Chinese government has that Google form and is like, knows more about me.
TikTok got it, but I didn't get it.
I don't mind if TikTok has it. I'll make a funny video out of it, but I don't like that China has it.
Yeah.
So they're just the worst parents. Not on their fault. Because they didn't know what they were doing. And they didn't, they were just first generation, after the war type, kids of the post-Polish, Jewish Holocaust generation. Fend for yourselves. We got bigger problems, right? They have full. My therapist gives them full release. It's not their fault.
But do you give them full release?
Who knows? Yeah, I'm happy. Like but I'm saying the clueless. I was anxiety riddled, right? But like. My kids will say the same thing about me in a podcast in 10 years. So the circle of life continues. Cats in the cradle, baby. But I'm not going to give them credit. I'm alive. They get credit for that.
Fair. So how do you become an entrepreneur? When do you realize it's what you want to do? Is there a light bulb moment? Is there a direction that it's that you're going in, or does it just sort of evolve?
I think it's a fascinating question, right? When you grew, I don't know, how old are you?
50. I'll be 51.
I thought you were younger. From your email, I thought you were in your 30s. So I'm glad we didn't back you. You're too old to be backed. I didn't even know I was being an ageist. Now I feel good about it. Good question. I was an entrepreneur right from the fucking get-go. And who knows if it was because I was scared.
Were you selling eye patches?
I was selling shit, a lot of shit. I was like go to New Mexico with my parents, and probably because I was so scared of my dad, but probably because I just wanted to please my dad, who was an entrepreneur and a wild person.
Did you know he was an entrepreneur?
No one knows. They were 10. You're just trying to not get beat up for having a big nose and a mole. You're just trying to survive. You just always, every kid's trying to get their parents' attention, I think. So that was what I thought would get the attention. So sell shit and make money.
What did you do?
I didn't know what I was doing, but like we go to New Mexico and like I'd buy turquoise jewelry and resell it to my parents' friends. Is that an entrepreneur scam? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Etsy, but for Jewish people.
But for Jewish people.
It's like Jetsy. I invented Jetsy.
So, did you go to camp at all growing up?
I did. I hated it. I wish I had known, because I was anxiety and insecure. But like I loved it as a counselor.
Good for you.
Well, they didn't think it would be good. They just didn't want to be around their kids. Like there's a difference. There's a difference between negligence and what they think is going to be good with you. So they drop you off at camp, and I was homesick. Why would I be homesick of people I don't even like talking nice about now? And I'm kidding mostly, but I'm saying like that's kids. Like they're homesick even though their home life's not that great.
Kids can be really mean. I mean, that's just the truth.
It's not that the kids can be mean. It's the parents don't know that they're destroying their kids, right? Meaning, I shouldn't have been homesick. I should have been thrilled, right? We thought we created a great home for our kids, and my son couldn't wait to disappear. So it's all like perception is not reality.
I think that's appropriate that he wants to disappear at some
I'm not
point.
going to take kudos, but I think it is exactly. Kids, what? It's a male thing, like prehistoric. Like, get me the fuck away from these psychos. They're either going to eat me or mess me up further.
Well, I can tell you it's not just male. By the time my daughter was, she wanted to leave her senior year of high school, right? We're like, well, you got to finish before you can actually go to college. But man, was she ready to go. So I totally get it.
No, we with my son, we should have let him leave like for board. He was ready to leave very early, very comfortable being away from us. And my daughter loves being around us. So I don't know if that's just genetics or luck or whatever it is.
So you were an empty nester for some period of time. Has COVID completely changed that?
Completely. And it's been good either way. Like you don't want to be my wife hates empty nest. I loved it. Embraced it. It was the year of, I called it the year of Howie when they left. And now they're home and it's the summer of Howie because they're down, they work, they like clean up, they shop, they drive, they don't need anything. It's amazing. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. And they don't mind being at home. They don't even mind being at home.
Yeah, we got about 6 months of empty nesting, which or free birding.
Did you love it?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And then it just, but it's hard to feel bad for us because my son.
Shouldn't feel bad for you. It's horrible for kids. Horrible.
Exactly. It is so much worse for them. But
we have no idea how hard it is. So hard for them. So unfair, but it's so life. I don't know.
No, it is.
Life is unfair.
It is. No one said it was going to be fair. So I'd love to talk about some of the investments at Social Leverage, if that's okay with you, because a lot of our listeners are going to be wondering either how you think about the private equity investments you make. What's the thesis? Social Leverage. Where was the thesis born? As well as how you then decide whether or not a company fits. And I'm going to start with a really interesting one, actually, based on the conversation to date, which is Manscaped, which I love what they do from a marketing standpoint. How does Manscaped fit into the Social Leverage thesis?
It doesn't. I think the lesson there is it's great to have a thesis.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also great to synthesize and be open to breaking your rules. So I am of the opinion that, again, I have so many lucky mentors, Fred Wilson, Brad Feld, you get to read people, and I get to just use these tools to talk to people, including yourself. It's like we know each other because of Twitter and email. But like I seriously thought you were in your 20s or 30s, you know, because you don't say you have kids. You're young, you're startups. So I figure you're young, you know. Wait a minute. The question was, so you have to synthesize. I think our openness to synthesize is a partnership. We just are all entrepreneurs and all not rigid. Especially me, I'm lunatic, but they're very more rigid than me. So having a partnership where everybody has a different, there's now 4 of us, but there were 3 of us until very recently, and Tom and I were first. And so learning everything that we learned along the way, which is like, don't have the same skills, especially if you want to like grow, and you know, go at the proper pace and keep an open mind, develop different networks and yada, yada, yada. And having the public markets teach me about selection, you know, applies to the private. You know, all the things that I learned along the way, getting into venture capital pretty late in life. All the things that were just, all the life lessons that led up to investing helped. From the public markets and stuff. So Manscaped comes to us. He's local. He's pitching us all the time. San Diego. We really didn't have good success in San Diego. Part of it, my thesis was, I moved to San Diego. I go, well, if I'm here, let's start doing deals. And the first person I met in San Diego was my partner, Gary, who we backed at a company, went on to sell to Salesforce. And from then on, it was just like we couldn't find entrepreneurs that we like, unless you like biotech or energy, but like I'm not into those space. So this kid liked me, Paul. He was pitching me ideas, and I was like, no. And then he sent me this thing, Manscaped, and I'm like, yeah. And I sent it, I was just giggling. I'm like, it's like moobs. It's hilarious. It's a word that just moobs. Like if he'd sent me a man's ear. It's like Seinfeld with man's ear, except Manscaped was really something I thought, I do a lot of manscaping. I'm not even the audience. So it was just because I manscape religiously, not my balls, but like every other part of my gross body. So I actually manscape around the issues that other kids don't manscape, like one ear hair or the one nose hair. I'm like using a thing on everything, eyebrows. I'm just shaving all day. I'm like a legal gardener. So he came to me and I was like, oh, totally doing this. And then I talked to my partners and said, you idiot, like this is the dumbest, just stop it. Like, and so like I convinced him to at least like meet Paul. And we as VCs, as smart as we were like, Paul, listen, we love you, you've worked hard. Put like, a blind person or a handicapped person in charge of this business. Put the dumbest person actually in charge of this business. Someone that just can't be employed. And go bring us a bigger idea, Like your cousin that can't get a job, put him in charge. And he was like, okay, because he wanted us to invest so badly, like listened to us and went back to the drawing board and like came back with a new idea that we were like, that's the idea. Long story short, that idea was WHIF, WHIFF, which was like Pandora for perfume, and it just wasn't working. We put in the money, it wasn't working. And we had like a 2-horse race. We had Manscaped too, but we were like, please focus on the perfume idea. Yeah. And like he comes to me and he's like all nervous, like after going through all the money, he's like, we've tried everything, I don't know. But he goes, Manscaped's working like crazy with my like cousin who can't be employed. And I'm like, what are you talking to me? Get the hell over to Manscaped. Like you don't need to ask me. Like put all the good people you got on Manscaped. So that is basically how we ended up in it. Like not on purpose, but because and the lesson is people make. Yeah, no one wants to hear the real stories. They just think you're a genius for investing in Manscaped, And we're happy to tell people the real stories. All you see on our website is the logo, not the story, right? Who wants to listen to that? Right. Because the people who give you money don't want to hear how dumb you are. They just want to hear how great you are. So
people don't appreciate the level of luck and serendipity that sometimes plays into this process, and there is an element of that.
Luck, sure. I'm starting to switch away from that word because you do make your own luck, and the serendipitous I'll take, and good fortune, and luck for sure. But I think it's just more about the harder you work and the more you put out the good. It's like fishing. If you have your line in the water, you're going to catch fish. Like I fish. No, I don't look like a fisherman. The number one rule of fishing is keep the goddamn line clean, keep it in the water, present the bait all the time. You're going to catch fish. You know, it's not just because you have a line in the water doesn't mean you're going to catch fish, but having it in the water helps. So same thing with investing. You got to fish in the right spots. You got to have conviction around. You have to have domain experience. And Manscaped is domain. My domain experience is I Manscaped, and I was stupid enough to be early enough into the DTC brands. And this kid is such a genius marketer. So it's all 100% Paul.
His cousin or him?
His cousin. We've retired.
Okay.
His cousin now is like a Amazon Sunday delivery man, as he should have been. I'm kidding. And, you know, Paul's the CEO, killed his cousin, probably buried his cousin, like Sopranos, just to get the job back.
It's possible.
And he's built this massive direct-to-consumer, now retail business. And, you know, he felt that every part of the man's body should have $1 billion brand, just like the female body. It's pretty good. He's right. Look at Hims, you look at hers, you look at, you know, Glossier, and Manscaped's one of the first breakout brands for men's bodies since what, Gillette?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's bigger than people think.
No, it's enormous.
And they've raised very little money, which is the art of the deal. You know, I hate saying the term the art of the deal because he has no art to his deals. He has brute force. Paul has art. Paul has artistically built a massive business with very little money. That's art.
That's cool.
You know, art of the deal has been misused, right? There is an art to a deal. Win-win-win.
I agree.
Win-win. Happy customers, creative marketing, people get paid on time. You know what I mean? That's the art.
I do know what you mean. Yeah. I mean, it's really important for what we do.
And what we do, there has to be win-wins more than there one side takes all. The old pre-2008 world, which came back in the politics, is me. Divide and conquer. It's a good strategy, obviously. It's been since the beginning of time, but I believe in bring everybody along, even the dumb cousin.
So let's talk about bring everybody along. And I think for a lot of people, they're not going to see the connection between the two, so I'm going to ask you to explain it. RallyRd and Robinhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
where does that investment thesis tie?
I think the harder one, like, because I don't invest in cars and I'm not really like an asset investor, RallyRd is, I'm more proud of that because it's just an impossible idea. It's way ahead of its time, but quickly catching up. You know, whereas Robinhood was like everybody laughed at it, but I knew enough about the domain of trade. Like if they could hide the complexities, which they showed me, you know, it was so early, it was like, you know, pre-launch, but they had enough experience, they knew enough about something, and it was just time. And I got all those right, and that's why it's a home run for me. You know, I didn't do anything special other than right place, right time, right team, right product. Great execution. Oh, that's how you get a unicorn. It's not that easy, but it seems easy when you package it like that. If everybody thinks that that's, you know, they read TechCrunch and they've seen Facebook and they know how to do it. It's just, you know, and there's all these posers, smart people too, posing with like growth hacking. There's no such thing. The product, if it's great and you get the right timing and you do everything right as one, like a symphony, it's a masterpiece, but it's just not one thing. You can't fake it. Well, I mean, you're supposed to try and fake it, but you really can't.
So where I was hoping you might go with this is the concept of individuals investing on their own.
Yeah, so I've long believed as that guy, investing on my own and getting my ass kicked and learning that this was all speeding up. And so with Robinhood, it was a culmination of like, I got the community. We know that the only thing they're missing is the utility of free trading. You know, free trading on an iPhone made sense to me. And it just was a no-brainer to me, right? I luckily invested in 2010 before Robinhood and eToro, which was kind of like, is really more proud of that because it was 2010, you know, and it was like a Israel-based startup doing exactly what Robinhood does with crypto. Like, think about that, crypto in 2011, like day one, 12 cents, Bitcoin. We grew up, you and I, Yahoo Finance was like, whoa. Street.com were like, whoa. And this is just on rails now. And you throw in zero commission and COVID and all kinds of, some luck. And I have a Play Robinhood account because, I'm not serious about trading anymore. And I play it as a game. I'm trying to get the highest amount of dollars in my account. Why is that not a game? It's like, embrace the game.
Can you talk about your 8 to 80?
I will.
For people who don't know.
So with RallyRd, it was the same thing. I'm like, wow, they're gonna fraction. And so part of the whole vision was fractionalization. Vanguard had this forever, and they were holding it in the box in BlackRock, and they could have done Robinhood before Robinhood. All they had to do was reverse their technology and say, hey, build your own ETF, and we'll deploy it for you with our fractional. They've been buying fractional shares for 30 years. How do you think you buy 500 stocks when you put $50 in your IRA? Fractional ownership. Robinhood just consumerized their institutionalized crap, and they hid the complexity. Vanguard's hiding the complexity behind get it this one way. That's bullshit. It's great, but that's being shown for what it is. I don't want to own 500 stocks. Why is that?
Right.
Why isn't it $499? Why isn't it $503? And screw them. I'm pissed. They've institutionalized something that was great, all hidden, in some institutionalized package. And they got Goldman on board and BlackRock and State Street, and God bless. And no one talks about them being evil. It's just Facebook. It's just a fucking clown show. And again, it's not their fault. When they started the company, they didn't think it was going to be this, but then they work the lobbyists and they get your 401k's time dated. I mean, people do not know how screwed they're getting, how they're being let off a cliff. So RallyRd is just an extension of that to other assets. And it's just we'll take anything public and we'll figure out a way to get the cost down, and you could have other assets. And in an inflationary world of rare assets, this is a great time to be parking some money in cool, cultural, iconic, rare items. So that's RallyRd, and that's a little more ahead of the curve and risky because of the timing. Everything's there, but maybe the timing won't be right. But we're working hard to make sure we survive.
I'm optimistic for you at RallyRd, and we'll certainly do our best to help make that happen.
Yeah, no, it's good. And my daughter works there, so I'm really happy about that.
Great. Yeah. Well, tell her she should use her IRA to invest at RallyRd, and we can help her.
What? You're right. So it's
just think about duration matching.
Yeah, duration matching is perfect. You guys have a great product. You've executed really well. It's just IRA is the problem. The word IRA is just marketed badly. It needs to be modernized. You know what I mean? The whole thing, whether it's a 529 or a Keo or a fucking 401k. Jesus Christ, speak English to millennials. Build a brand. Everything's shitty names. So that's the opportunity for you. But so the last question you asked was
8 to 80.
Yeah, 8 to 80. So for people beginning, I think this is, people, again, this is the S&P 500. We've been told it's just set and forget 500 companies. I believe that 20 great brands, you can get the same, if not better, returns, and live with and just invest in the products you live with, from an 8-year-old or a 1-year-old to a 100-year-old basically now, because kids have an iPad the minute they came out of the womb, they land on an iPad because it's easy to clean, right?
Pre-order.
Well, it's easier to clean the birth canal off an iPad. It's a perfect product. Right. Just wipes off. It's like a Tesla. So kids are swiping from the minute they're born. They're being swiped and they're swiping. So how can you not own Apple? You're almost a Russian if you don't own Apple.
So Apple at $2 trillion or Nikola at $13 billion, which do you buy?
So this is I wish it was that easy, but it's just not that easy. It's just that how can you not own Apple? Now, if you buy it today, you have to be prepared to buy it 30% lower. And then you have to be prepared to sell it 50% lower if they're becoming the next IBM. So if it was easy, IBM would be going up every day. So I'm saying where we stand today, you have to own Apple. And you maybe don't want to buy one share. Maybe you just want to put $50 in it. That's fractional, right? So everybody, the first thing they should do is buy Apple. And they may lose money on it, so make sure you put enough in that you're willing to bet more when it's 30% down. And then make sure you have people that you trust to explain to you why you should sell it when it's 50% down, because that can happen, so that it's not down 90%. Because
I have a theory, by the way, if someone tells you to get into something,
they better be there to tell you when to get out.
Exactly.
And so I get the number one call. I get, Howard, what do? I go, well, I didn't tell you to do it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, go to the guy that told you to do it. And if you told you to do it, then you figure it out. It's just too much pressure on me. People ask me all, and this is why StockTwits is still great. I don't mind telling this. I mean, we have to do a better job, but that is the answer. There is no like Kramer yelling names out of a thing. You know, I get why he did it, but that's like Web 1.0. If you're not telling people when to get out, don't tell them when to get in. And if you're asking me if you should get out and I didn't get you in, go back to the person who got you in.
100%. So we're almost out of time. A couple
Did we
quick
answer
things.
any questions that mattered?
Everything we've talked about matters.
Okay.
Everything. It's about you. It all matters. So any regrets?
No.
And,
I mean, a few times I've made my kids mad when I should have just held my lip.
That's parenthood.
So parenthood is no
That's
regrets,
parenthood.
but like I regret parental mistakes because those are just, they cause deep wounds.
You've been hugely successful. Have you ever had a financial crisis?
This week?
No, not this week. You know, something, and not existential, but
it's one that I've had. I tell it all the time. It's just too harrowing to tell, but yes. And I think the lesson is sociopaths live amongst us. One is a narcissistic one is in the White House. You can like him or hate him, but he is what it is. It's a sociopath, very dangerous personality, and they're out there. And you know, you have these networks, just like you could get cancer. You're walking along, you don't know you have cancer, and then boom, they tell you got 6 months or they can get it out. Once cancer gets into your network and gets into it, sometimes it kills you, sometimes it takes years to clean up. And so we're very anti-fragile. You know, I'm not a big Talib guy, but I believe in anti-fragile. Once disease, and then we have all these wide networks now and all this spare time. And it's very easy to let cancer into the network and then very hard to clean it up. So I've had that happen to me. Pre-social networks, obviously, where it's just make a bad decision about who you go into business with, and they're really bad personality, and it takes a long time to clean that up. And so hopefully that helps people. It's just be very careful who you go into business with, and it's almost impossible to avoid it because they walk amongst us, these crazy people.
100%. So last question. What does retirement mean to you? Is that a word for you, retirement?
No, it was a beautifully well-executed ad men commercial by Schwab and the rest Fidelity of a time gone past. There is no retirement. The retirement made sense 40 years ago in an industrial era.
When you never switch jobs.
When you never switch jobs, where you were scared because you had to leave town or whatever. Now you want to leave town. Therefore, you have to think about a 70-year work life. And so I'm super bearish on retirement and super bullish on small, creative, companies of one. Everybody should be thinking about how they could be anti-fragile, which means having to move, willing to work at the place that doesn't seem, you know what I mean? And having like these great jujitsu skills that you can survive on your own. And living a lean life is a good way to retire anyways. If you live a lean life, retirement's always available to you.
So speaking of living a lean life, I totally lied.
Lean
I have one
life,
more
but
question.
about money, but it helps to be.
No, I know. But last meal, what's the last meal and who cooks it?
I do it often. I did it today just in case. I go to my favorite restaurants over and over, so I don't have regrets. I generally overpay for my favorite foods. It's sushi.
Can you say what?
It's always a good Italian, but in Tuscany or whatever, but sushi, because it's local, I always keep like a sushi or steak place. And I overpay. Like it's my one bit.
Yeah, but if it's good.
Yeah, what I save on clothes and suits and ties and shoes, I spend on food now.
Perfect. Howard, thank you a gazillion for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was
and
fun.
So nice to have you.
All right, catch up soon.
The Altogether Show is brought to you by Alto IRA. Alto knows that public markets offer insufficient diversification of retirement accounts. That's why Alto developed a streamlined platform to make it easy and cost-effective for anyone to invest their tax-advantaged retirement savings in alternatives. Assets like real estate, venture capital, and crypto that are outside of the public markets and available through Alto's 21 platform partners. To learn more, visit altoira.com.